You tweeted recently about
Okay.
exploring the unconscious mind, and the tools you mentioned were dreams, free association, humor, inexplicable behaviors, and slips of the tongue. I'm curious
Yes.
if you could uh, elaborate on that.
Yeah.
Give
Great question, and
examples, things like.
I'd love to. I'd love to. Okay. Number one, dreams. Although in the West, in Europe and the Americas, in North America in particular, our relationship with dreams is kind of defined by Freud, whether we like it or not. That in our dreams we go to sleep and we work through the daily residue, little pieces of the day that we need to process. And then we elaborate a world, and that world is driven by, in Freud's model, driven by desire, in particular desire for sex or the sex drive, but also more exotic desires like the death drive. At some point, he was convinced the only way you could explain certain behaviors in humans is that they have a drive towards death. But anyway, through these very, very hydraulic models, we got the pressure that was built up from repressed sexual drive. You could almost feel the pressure as you repress the sexual drive, you press it down. Of course, that's going to increase pressure, and sooner or later that's going to erupt. But the function of dreams would be to work through some of that stuff while you're asleep and paralyzed, because you are paralyzed. Your body goes into a state where you can't move, and where you can't move very much most of the time. And then you can dream whatever you need to dream in order to work through the conflicts, neurotic and otherwise, and the daily problems, and to discharge or start to deal with these overwhelming impulses that constitute the drive towards eros, and then the one towards anos. So that would be the way Freud looked at it. And in the West, it's absolutely remarkable how they could seriously teach about dreams and dream interpretations at the best universities and leave out the millennia of work that's already been done. So with regard to dreams, Freud studied them because he believed that he could get free associations from them and get clues as to the details of the particular neurotic conflict that was causing someone anxiety or depression or their particular fetish or phobia or whatever. And so there's a whole century worth of work done in that area, more or less. But there's a lot more work that was done before then, including dream yoga, lucid dreaming, so on and so forth. And then just as an aside, in my world, it was very, very compelling when I went into my dreams and wanted to test the world that my mind had created. I wanted to test the solidity of wood, the sound when I knocked on it. I wanted to see keys open doors. I wanted light switches to work. And all of that happened, right? So I'm going, whoa, this is weird. I guess the final test is, if I cut myself, do I bleed? And I cut myself, and it hurt like hell on the top of my arm, and it bled, and it woke me up. And since that day, I'm even more easily convinced that the brain is quite capable, with the help of consciousness, of creating an entire world. But that's an aside. So the second one, we have dream-free associations. So the other royal road to the unconscious, and this one we can attribute to Freud, and this one is a real doozy because it works, And so what he would do is he discovered that if he put people on a couch free of distractions, especially from looking at him, which is also more comfortable for him, as you can imagine, that they would associate free associated, certain patterns would emerge, and these patterns sometimes subtly and sometimes not so subtly, represented in words and images the nature of the neurotic conflict. So if somebody was, say, afraid of their father, definitely afraid of their father, or afraid of their father's opprobrium because they're his daughter and he didn't like them sleeping around, well, they might have a dream about sex and so on and so forth, or trying to procure it, or whatever. And a huge, hairy, very threatening gorilla shows up, right, in the middle of the dream out of nowhere. Well, that's a free association. I'm sorry. That was a dream association, but you can get the same thing with free association. Someone starts to talk and they start telling you about, oh, I saw this big gorilla. He was so scary. He looked like he was so bossy, authoritarian, and this and that. And before you know it, the patient's describing in detail their father and their relationship to them, but really they're just free associating about gorillas in the zoo. And so that's free association. And that one we give that check to Freud. Third comes, let's see, dreams, free associations, humor.
Yeah.
Humor is great. And here, I think Freud was the first one to point it out, but who knows where he may have gotten it from. But he noticed that a lot of jokes are sadistic and others are humorous in ways that are not socially appropriate or socially acceptable or whatever. And so he noted that in certain dreams, in certain jokes that people would tell or that were floating around in the culture, there would be clues, again, to the unconscious aggressive impulse, which I left out of the list above. So there's aggressive, sexual, and death drive. So he noted that the sadism and the aggression that you sometimes see in dream and jokes could be used the way dreams work. Then we kind of say dreams, free associations, humor, slips of the tongue. I'm going to reverse them a little bit. Slips of the tongue I'm going to put in there because that's a Freudian one also. We even call them Freudian slips. So in this one, which has been, let me preface the description by saying it's been brought down a couple of notches because we know that neurological damage and tics and certain other straight out neurological problems can cause word choice problems in natural speech. So anyway, what he noted was there's a great example recently where George Bush gets up and talks about how we are 100% justified, and it is absolutely, we must fight for democracy. This speech was like 2 weeks ago. We must protect democracy, and we have every right and every responsibility to be there in Iraq, right? He said Iraq instead of Ukraine.
Right, Biden.
No, this is Bush, the guy who invaded Iraq. False pretenses. On false pretenses. So he took a situation where the government lied bold-faced at the UN and to the world and to all Americans. And so most of them believed him that there was indeed yellow cake in, I don't know where they thought it was, but they ended up attacking Saddam Hussein based entirely on a lie. Right. And we've killed hundreds of thousands of people. We got to stop that habit. So that would be that's not slip. Yeah, that's an example of a slip of the tongue. Okay. And that one Freud attributed those, the clear-cut ones, anyway, to the unconscious process. He knows deep down inside he's guilty about Iraq. He's making a big propaganda speech for Ukraine, and he substitutes Iraq because unconsciously he wishes he were talking about Iraq, right? Or he did feel, you can work it out if you know the history. Mm-hmm. But we see that, and with Biden, the same thing, So some of the slips of tongues are because he's demented and he's got brain damage from 2 strokes and God knows how many microinfarcts. But some of it is because of unconscious conflict. All right, now then there's one left, and probably the iffiest one of them all. Which one? Let me see. Remind me.
Inexplicable behaviors. Is that?
Yeah, this is tricky. But when I think about it, it's easiest to use the examples that were used by Freud. Or no, I can give one from, I don't know if this is from Freud or from I heard someone describing a case like this, but a woman who was petrified of stepping on the crack of a sidewalk. It's no big deal, you just kind of, don't step on the crack, right? You break your brother's back. Have you ever heard that saying?
Yeah.
Step on a crack, break your brother's back. Well, she had remembered it, but then repressed it because in her childhood, she really did want to kill her mom. And so in that particular case, that weird behavior, avoiding cracks in sidewalks, revealed an unconscious wish to murder her mother. But her mother died anyway, so now she was stuck with the guilt of having wished something horrible upon her mom. And now the poor thing can't step on sidewalk cracks. It's a simple and crude example. Forgive me. There are better ones that maybe will come to my mind later. But it's very iffy, like all of these, frankly, because the relationship of the mind to the consciousness, or the capital C, is something that has not been worked out in the West. And it's not that well understood in the East as far as I know, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because you've got to figure out this issue with thought. Where do they come from? And does the brain generate thought, or is the brain just the transducer? And these are real problems because we've been studying the mind and the brain. I know I was there for, I wasn't there for the whole century, but I was there for the good half. And nobody has any idea. We haven't found any thoughts in the brain. So we have no idea how they would be generated. But it could be some holographic kind of type phenomenon. It could be something else. Or it could be that we need to as Aldous Huxley said, re-examine our relationship to reality, which we do need to do. It's highly overdue. Because we're not getting anywhere, right? We can't get anywhere with gravity because the gravity is totally imaginary. I mean, it's not imaginary. It's created by the brain at best. As the rest of the world, and the physical laws. I know that sounds crazy, but I'm an old man, and so I don't care what people think. It's not a model. It's